Well, usually I start the podcast really, we're just shooting a shit and then I just cut into it and that's how it works.
Cool. Let's do it.
George, it's been a while. Like, how you been, man?
It's been good, man. Been good. Life feels like there's a lot of opportunities that are coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like my heart's in a good place, body, mind, soul, all connected. Back in my body, feeling physical, feeling clear. Creating a lot of movements around community.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely been seeing a lot of growth in that capacity to hold containers, to hold workshops, to hold, all of that style of offerings of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been nice to continue to connect with people on like a soul level.
Yeah, I think it's been very well received in Montreal, what you've been building in terms of like the movements, the collective activities, and bringing people together. What got you started in this, I guess, physical but also spiritual journey of improving yourself?
It's a good question. I personally think that both men and women are really looking for this type of kind of calling back to self, calling back to the heart, um, to really get to know the self in a new way, so that we can connect in a new way. There's a lot of things happening worldwide that can be a little bit scary for the youth. We see a big shift in how the youth are showing up these days, but it's specifically around the idea of family and that strong unit of family. It's been a big why behind why I'm doing all of this. I've always wanted to be a father since I'm 4 years old, and for me, it really seems like the fatherhood archetype is something that we've kind of lost touch with in many ways. So whether it's around the brotherhood activations that I do, the warriors movement, the ice bath, the co-ed stuff that I'm leading
Mm-hmm.
with Heart Runs Deep, the work I'm doing with Sacred Sons worldwide, it's all around the same piece of, on my side at least, really calling men forward to lean into their edges and get to know themselves in a new way, so that they can lead in a new way.
Right.
I think that the concept of leadership is something that is being upgraded right now, like on a political sphere, on a personal sphere, in the businesses that we operate in. Making more room for women to show up in their capacity and to really hold our strength, as well as being adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but it's really,
yeah. But I also feel like, if I can add more color to that, I feel like we've, especially in the modern American society, like we've grown more and more apart as like an individualistic society, and one of the things that I feel is important in creating these movements is bringing more of a collective mindset, where together we can build better things, and not just like it's me versus you, but let's do cool shit together, right?
100%. Different people right now online and just in the whole sphere of this conversation are talking about how the American dream is something that's fading away.
Mm-hmm.
How we used to be able to, whether you're a man or woman, just really become the best you can be, and usually kind of be average at your skill set, and be able to afford a house and pay your mortgage by 35, 45 in that range.
Mm-hmm.
Have, let's say, 2 kids, put them through school, maybe even have 2 cars, maybe even have a cottage.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot harder to pay your house off before you're 65, 70, and like you're kind of paying paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people in Quebec are paycheck to paycheck. And it's a little bit of there's a change happening there.
Well, I think because the social contract in of itself that was established years and years ago has been broken.
Mm-hmm.
And so that American dream, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't exist anymore, because we've allowed ourselves to not take accountability for where we're going as a society. I think that ties into like the leadership aspect of what you're saying. Like we have decaying countries that are basically like, poverty is on the rise. There's more and more drug uses, less natality, so less birth rate. Where is that all leading? at some point, like there has to be a shift where we take accountability for that and not just blame the government or whatever. Because
For
at
sure.
the end of the day, like we're putting in place these powers. You know, we might not have the full power that to decide the outcome, but us as voters, we're still partaking in that dynamic. So
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. And it's like, I think it's less about desiring that, perfect house with the white picket fence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
And thinking that it's all about how we, all of us, can individually get everything that we want alone.
Mm.
Instead, it's like, how can we come together and share our, not only just our resources, but our skill set, so that, rewind before all of these modern ways of living came through. Like, if you were someone who creates clothing and I created swords, well, now we have swords and clothing collectively, but I can't necessarily create everything for my family from scratch. Like, I need to barter, I need to share resources.
Yeah.
Whereas today, it's like, if you want to become, like you're saying, the hyper individualistic, successful leader in your family and beyond, it's like you have to figure out a way to do it all, essentially. And that's just becoming less and less realistic.
So take us a little bit back, like George Dawson origin story. How did you grow up, and what? Because I know from what you mentioned before the podcast, you were also in the restaurant industry. So take us all through all that journey and how it got you to where you are today.
Yeah. So, only child, born here, Irish background on both sides, a little Scottish and a little French Canadian. Definitely was raised very Irish rooted, I would say, in terms of how my mom raised me. My father was always in my life. I saw him every second weekend.
Hmm.
He helped me with school, but my mom really raised me. I was raised in the McGill Ghetto. So
Okay.
right in McGill Ghetto, like right off of University in Milton.
Hmm.
Um, and, took the path of going to school and following that dream of making a change in the world, but kind of got caught up along the way in really trying to, well, not trying to. I would say through the divorce my parents went through, I kind of stepped into the role model of holding accountability for the family at my home with my mother very
Hmm.
young, where I was leading, I was supporting her on an emotional level, but also financial level,
Hmm.
and it was just a reality, I think, that I felt really young. The sense of like hustle. The hustler in me was born really young.
Hmm.
And I used my creative outlet to express what I was feeling in a way of graffiti art, street art. I became a graffiti artist for
Oh, no way.
many
Cool.
years. I was like kind of a solo artist for a while, but then I started to, there's other guys in my school who were kind of writing a little bit. We had this crew called RTW, Right That
Okay.
Way, or there's a few names for it.
Uh-huh.
And then like from there, it became, the graffiti world, the street art world is such a massive piece of Montreal. Like there's so much going on there, but the issue with that is it's all expressions of challenge, of suffering, of pain, of it's not like we're writing these big hearts. It's like we're writing our challenges.
Right.
It's a reflection of society in many ways, and that path kind of I took the path of adversity in a
Hmm.
way. There was a lot of moments where I had to put food on the table, and I did what I had to do to make that happen.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm very grateful that I was able to stay the path and not lose touch with myself, and stay in line for the majority of it.
Yeah, because like I feel like with any challenge, you can either get better or bitter, right? And it's interesting how it's so hard to determine how an upbringing will impact you in like in your future or whatever. Because there's some people that grow up with hardship that
Yeah,
really become successful because of that, and there's also other people that never get to rise out of that. Can kind of become like it's either it becomes like an upward spiral where you grow from all those hard things that you go through, or you just like get dragged down.
totally.
So what for you like kind of inspired you to move past that? Was it just because you didn't have any choice, or
Maybe no choice. Maybe the belief in community. I think I found community really young. But just to touch on what you're talking about, um, I think like there's the story of like Batman and the Joker and how they have a very similar upbringing. And one says, all these bad things happen to me, I'm going to make everyone pay.
Yeah.
And the other one says, all these bad things happen to me, I'm never going to let this happen to anyone else.
Right.
So it's like the villain or the hero story, right? And like, I think if anyone watching understands the concept of like the hero savior kind
Hmm.
of archetype, I think I fell into that very, very young, kind of taking care of my mom. So I kind of was like, I felt like I had to utilize my skill set to support others.
Mm.
But I think I kind of lost myself in the way
Mm.
along that journey. But like, and then like I was saying, that artistic expression became a way of my kind of like letting go of and like the expression of what I was going through.
Yeah.
But wait, remind me what the question was, that last piece you asked.
I was curious, like, what got you to interpret that like in a positive way, you know? Because, like you said, it can either turn you into a hero or a villain.
Right,
So-
right. Yeah, it's a good question.
Because I'm wondering, you know, with what you're doing now, it's almost like you're trying to set up a structure where you can help other people if they do feel, you know, the challenges of being a man in today's society or whatnot. Like, you're helping in that capacity. Was that, you know, was that always part of the plan, or was it just something that you grew into?
I don't think it was always part of the plan. But I think community was always the thing that I leaned into with the most eagerness to create that. Like, again, as an only child, again, my father was in the picture, but once I, you know, in the adolescent journey, there was a part of me that was really looking for leadership, that was looking for a way to also be let in, to be received, you know, coming from a household that sometimes felt a little bit volatile. I believe a part of my journey was really to create safety. I was trying to look for safety, for stability.
Right.
And like, I found stability in community, and mostly in like brotherhood, you would call it, or let's call it like toxic brotherhood, which was more like gangs and that type of concept.
Yeah.
So
This whole journey of like becoming a coach, health, and all that stuff. Like, how did you get into that?
yeah, so in that same vein of experiencing kind of the pathway that I experienced when I was younger, I met further along in the journey, as I started to, you know, I started playing rugby. I started to really get physical, get into my body, really train others. I was always kind of training friends, like low key, since I was 14. But it just because I really felt connected to that. And moving through school, eventually I met this group of guys that were super in their body, very strong, very disciplined. They were, you know, one was a stuntman, one was a black belt jiu-jitsu, one was in Cirque du Soleil. And like the list was it was like a thick group of chill guys. And I was like, you know, when I was younger, when I was kind of misaligned, looking for structure, looking for leadership, looking for connection to myself, what was I really looking for? It's like, oh, it was this. It was a healthy tribe of warriors. And that piece was something that I kind of, it was a few years before the lockdown. It was maybe like 2017. I was like, I really, really want to create something. Specifically, my view was to create something that was like a men's retreat system where men can kind of connect and get a taste of what it is to be strong, physical, connected, rooted, grounded, and yet also, you know, feeling the concept of safety, but also really bringing through the warrior archetype.
Yeah, like a sense of belonging.
Sense of belonging, exactly. And yeah, when the lockdowns really came through, you know, right before they came through, this idea that I had for, let's call it 2 years, there was a lot of things happening in the media that felt like it was something that if I were to speak up, that no one would listen. Maybe it wasn't my place to voice the ideas that I had. You know, being like a pretty tall, white, straight guy,
right? Yeah.
Who wants to listen to me type thing.
Yeah.
But then I actually had, you know, I've had my journey of friends who have lost their life, who've been locked up, I have family members who have died. My cousin shot himself. My adopted cousin took his own life when I was young. So that was my first experience of death in the family. And I've lost quite a few friends along the way. And through the lockdown specifically, there were a few friends who were really suffering, and it was, including myself, to be honest, there was a lot going on in my life that I was like, the volume is so loud that on this concept that if I don't listen to it, like, it's going to make me go nuts.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, how can I make this happen? I started talking about it with my inner circle, and kind of, I heard other people in that same conversation starting to develop interest. And like, it wasn't me that activated the conversation necessarily in them, but I definitely had the calling. I was like, how can I find others who are like this?
Yeah, that resonate.
And one of the places that I found that was actually, if you know, in Bassin Peel on the underpass, they just started this outdoor workout gym. And I was training there through, like, it was winter or summer. I was there like freezing my ass off because there was no gyms.
I remember these videos. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, but it's there where I was meeting other men who understood the calling of, we're not going to listen to how we all need to just stay at home and just like rot and close our eyes and not listen and just like let the world rot. It's like I was meeting other men who were like, no, we're going to take care of ourselves. We're ripping this.
Yeah. You know?
So yeah, the idea started to like feel real. So yeah, we started. I was one of the co-founders of Male Movement, which is essentially it's a brotherhood. It's a support system for men to step into their leadership and call back in the fatherhood archetype.
Right.
So I'm of the belief that all issues that, let's say, a son or daughter or a mother deal with, it's like that anchorship that a father really brings through is such a big piece. And even if the mother is kind of mixed up in her own pathway of where she comes from, it's often her father that actually wasn't as connected to himself that really impacted her. Not to put the blame on men, because we don't want to just blame anybody, but I think that, you know, being as though men, we're really the alpha predator on this earth. It's like, we need to start holding space for our own issues, leaning into community, to connection, to self and other, so that we can show up in our family, so that we can show up for our wives, partners, sons, daughters, as a father, as a son, as a brother, and beyond.
Yeah, I think like a big part of masculinity, because I like to think about it as feminine energy and masculine energy, right? And for me, what it means to be, and I'm going to ask you this question afterwards, but for me, a big part of being a man is or that masculine essence is having initiative, but also taking accountability for when things are not going the way that you want them to go. Being a little bit more at the cause, not the effect, right? Like, to me, it's a bit like that yin and yang. Yin, where it's a bit more like, you know, you're calm and everything, and yang, that's a bit more like, okay, let's make shit happen. But I feel like now the way that, also that's a big problem with the media and everything, but the way that society is going is that everyone is leaning so much into being at the effect, right? Like, I'm the victim. I was wrong because of this and all that stuff. And a lot of it is actually valid because you can argue both sides, right? Like, I can argue that, hey, I have a fucked up life because I had fucked up parents. Right. And how could I, if somebody says that, like, how could I ever say that they're wrong? Because that's their reality of it. But, you know, we just have to remind ourselves that there's two ways to look at it. And there's two ways to position yourself. Which one empowers you more, and actually which one makes you more happy?
Yeah. And I think in that vein, that kind of frame of conversation, I think that we all have, you know, someone like David Goggins will call it the inner bitch.
Yeah.
You know, I don't necessarily love that. I call it, it's like, I think we all have a part of ourselves at one point in our story that was like a victim at some point. And it is quite a challenge to like forgive whatever the story is that made me or us or the world feel that way. And stepping beyond that is like turning the pain into power. And like one of the most wild things is like, you know, being my story as it is, the pieces that that used to be the most sensitive parts, that were perhaps the most fragile and pieces that would perhaps bring through emotion.
Yeah, like
actually what
triggering.
Triggering, let's say. Those are the pieces that are actually where I'm the strongest now and where I can lead the most from, because it's actually where I've gained the experience to mend that part, to, you know, rise above it, turn that victim story actually into a cause to create change
Right.
and become the change.
Yeah. Well, it's, I think one way of saying it is like, make your mess your message.
Make
Right.
your mess your message. I like that.
Well, it's a bit like that scene in 8 Mile when Eminem is like dueling with the other rapper. I forgot his name, but like he just starts dissing on himself. And once you own that, like, what else can you say about me?
Hey, it's true. I never thought of that. That's a good point.
Yeah. And so I wanted to lead into this question because my earlier thought brought me to this point. But like, what does it mean for you now to be a man and to step into that masculine essence? And how did that change over time? Like from when you were first starting into like performance coaching and everything to where you are now?
It's a great question. So you mentioned masculine and feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth is that we all have both masculine and feminine energy in us. Whether we're masculine led or feminine led is really up to us. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely a masculine led man. However, the feminine essence of me is what brings me my strength as well, through the feeling of those vulnerable pieces that I mentioned and turning the pain into power. It's like by slowing down and actually holding space for those elements, I get to know myself better. And Brené Brown's line that vulnerability is courage is really it. Like when I can grieve, it shows my nervous system, that I care about something. So grieving, I have a friend that I met through Sacred Sons who speaks how our tears are our prayers. And it's a way of giving back to the earth. When we shed them and they hit the earth, it's like, it's a reciprocal energy of showing the universe that we actually care about losing that thing. When we bury our tears and we suppress them and we pretend that line that nobody cares, which is actually something I used to say all the time. We lose touch with what matters, and we start to, I think, lean into maybe more of a burnout. So coming back to, what is masculinity? One line that I like to share that I really believe in is that, we come out of a mother womb and we die into Mother Earth. So everything starts and ends with the feminine. I think about that in many ways and I apply it in many ways. So if we really want to become very strong, very grounded, very like a strong leader, it's like we have to go through the parts of feeling what that might look like. It's not like we're going to fight our way there,
Right.
So, the concept of, there's another line that I really love, and it's, if you do something from fear and not from love, you're going to burn out. So when I was a younger boy, adolescent, child, and I feel like I kind of disconnected from my feminine and stepped into my masculine and like almost like a warrior sense young.
And almost like overcompensating, right?
Overcompensating and also trying to lead because I had to out of survival. So it was like a fear response. So I held onto that until the lockdowns for literally like 25 years. Where I was really leading from, I need to do this. Like, even when I started Male Movement, it's like, if I don't do this, the world is going to be taken from us. Like our humanity is going to collapse. Like something, don't know what, is going to take over. And it's like my job to step up. It's like, it's too much about me, that story.
Right.
Right. And that's too much about because I'm scared, truly. Right. So there's even like a sense of victimhood there. So, one thing that happened when I first started leading Male Movement with the other guys is when I would tell my story, even the stuff I'm saying now, like some of the stuff I would share in the men's circle around the fire, it would make me get very emotional. I would start to tear, and it would inhibit my capacity to share the rest of my story. It's because I had so much pain and tears suppressed that I couldn't move through it. So one of the things that I realized, working in all these realms that I work in, some of the strongest, most badass motherfuckers that I've ever met who have the craziest stories, they're like mid-sentence, they'll shed a tear and then they'll keep leading. Right. And for me, that's like the perfect example of an embodied man. And what that demonstrates is not only is he vulnerable enough to show his sorrow, but it doesn't catch him off guard where he goes into this big anxious shutdown. He's actually still able to lead. The quiver that used to happen to me doesn't happen anymore. Like I can cry and have basically full conversations. It might still happen a little bit, but if I take some breath and regulate my nervous system, I can step back in. So it's like, again, regulating my nervous system, breathing, slowing down, like reflecting, journaling. These are there's still doing happening here, like, which is known as like the masculine, whereas like the feeling is more of like the feminine. But still, these are like the softer elements. I'm not like going to jujitsu class to feel. I'm not like going boxing to feel.
Yeah, right.
It still can make me feel,
Uh-huh.
but like there has to be polarity. There has to be like both sides. There has to be the duality of how I'm leaning into my light and I'm also embracing my shadow. The
Yeah.
shadow work is like such an important element, I think, as being a man. And, you know, I think that the way that I can create the most safety in my body is to know both sides. So when I meet someone, let's call it my future, the mother of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think she will feel the most connected to me when she's unable to see that I know myself on both of those sides.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my shadow is suppressed, it comes out sideways. So if ever I get triggered and I raise my voice, well, I might see black, right? This is the
Right.
problem with not understanding the shadow. So it's like, as men, yes, being strong is important, but like, can you actually calm down? Like, something I learned in Sacred Sons is that aggression, a lot of men thinks it's switch, but we work in something called ritual combat where we box each other for 2 minutes. And it's like, it's a loving, it's like a playful dance. It's not like we're trying to kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's an agreement. But point is that we create this pressure in our hands where it's like, we show each other what 10% is, and then 100%, and then 50%. And it shows that there's essentially an average of two men coming together, even if one person is stronger. And then you're able to meet that in the physical way.
Okay.
And that allows essentially a balance. And
But what does that establish? That particular exercise?
that we are not, as men, when we see a red, like, imagine a murderer coming to my family and I with a small knife because he's looking for money. If I pull my shank out, my sword, whatever, it's only going to escalate. But my eye, and looking him in the eye and says, you chose the wrong guy, bro. That's stronger than his knife.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm so scary when I'm calm.
Yeah,
Like
you're grounded.
Right. And like in American Gangster, the loudest person in the room is the weakest person in the room. The loudest person in the room is the weakest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So like, as men, it's something that we think we must learn, is that when we're in traffic and there's someone beeping and honking and we were like, I want to murder that person because they deserve it.
Yeah.
It's like, we need to check in with our king and say, listen, warrior voice, let me calm the fuck down. There's people around. We're not trying to do anything crazy, and come back to the body and be like, hey, it's all good. And be like, hey, all right, bro, you know?
Yeah. I think that's also the place where you can lead from, because if it comes back to being like proactive versus reactive.
Exactly.
What we touched upon before. You can't lead from a place of reactiveness. For you personally, like, what helps you develop confidence as a man, and how do you what are some types of exercises or rituals that keep you grounded in that?
That's a good question. I mean, you mentioned something earlier about accountability, and I think integrity and accountability are big. So, you know, I like to really hold my word. Word is bond. So when I say something, when I say it, it's because I'm going to do it, you know? And when I'm not sure, I make sure that I don't overpromise and underdeliver, whether it's in relationships, business, and beyond. It's like, which actually which actually limited me for very long to actually take action, because there was a lot of moments I think I was holding myself back until I was ready. So even like all this stuff that I'm doing now, like, I was thinking about this for years and sitting on it, kind of fearing truly that I wouldn't necessarily be received. It wasn't the right time, or da. But again, the calling got so loud that I had no choice. So I'm definitely big on affirmations. I'm definitely big on that concept of manifestation, kind of clearing space, also things that aren't serving me in terms of energetic blockage, whether it's in my own body. I use there's something called hape to actually clear my vessel, which helps me.
Okay. What is that?
It's an indigenous tobacco that is essentially ground burnt cacao pods, you know, like chocolate. Okay. That's cocoa. This is cacao, which is like the root of chocolate. Yeah. So it's ground cacao pods pods and mapacho, which is an indigenous tobacco essentially.
So you smoke
And
it?
no, it's placed in the nose on both sides, and
Okay.
it gets absorbed, and it essentially drops you into the lower kind of rooted chakra system. So you have your 7 chakras and the different traditions. So it's kind of like a grounding, and it roots you in the now. It's not it brings you out of the past and future, which again, a lot of us, I'll say us collectively, I think get lost in the comparison and the grief and the worry of the past and the doubt and the fear of the future. The now is where we must live, because it's right now o'clock all the time.
Right.
And so something like that, meditation, breath, definitely also calming down my psoas. My psoas.
Right.
Psoas is often something that can store a lot of grief, a lot of pain.
A lot of
The
tension.
body, like the body keeps the score. You know that book that.
Yeah.
So different big muscles in our body. Sometimes you're in like a spinning class and like you'll get emotional with this song. It's like, why am I getting emotional right now? It's like the body's moving through emotional release. And if we let that happen, if we're able to seek that intentionally,
Right.
we're essentially clearing energy and also anxiety, also pain, all these. Men store a lot on our shoulders. So often men who are working a lot will get a lot of trap pain. And massage and stuff like that can work, but it's like breath, posture, and like finding ways to move the energy is a really important practice. So like movement is medicine, that line, it's truly that. Like as we're young, but the longer we can move in life, and we're not just like sitting down most of the time because it hurts to get up.
True.
We're going to live longer, because the more we move, the more our heart rate rises and we're able to seek, those longer years. But I have to say the biggest piece for me is really, if we're talking about like practices, it really is community. Like it really always comes back to community. The blue zones in our world are the areas that people live the longest. There's a few of them in the world. One of them is Costa Rica. People love it out there. There's a few others. These places all have community as the root of what it is that keeps them all alive long. Family connection to the tribe kind of thing.
Right.
Like fitness and what we eat and how much we smoke and drink, like these things impact as well. But that community piece is really the root. So that really is like what I'm bringing through in the work that I do and the spaces that I create, is offering places for people to connect, including if I'm going through something. One thing that's important is to like, okay, relationship ended. I'm not just going to go jump into like going out and seeing people. I'm going to take a moment to like process that, integrate it for a couple days, and once I feel like, okay, I've let it land, now I'm going to go and hang out with a friend, hang out with a few friends, just like maybe talk about it. The talking about it allows me to seek reflection and receive reflection from people who care about me, and I also be very intentional of who I ask for help, because if someone's gonna be like, oh, she's crazy.
Yeah, fuck that bitch.
Let's go get wasted and go to, it's like, no, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
I'm looking for truth. I'm looking for the realness of it. It's like, hey, you know what I noticed when you were in that relationship, we kind of lost touch with you. You were kind of getting kind of like codependent with that girl a little bit. You're kind of like spending like almost every day with her. And if it ended, I can see why it's tough, but like, let me reflect back to you that if you're so invested in the relationship and you lose the bros, it's like, you got to also hold space for your community.
For sure. And, I feel like in today's society, it's even more important than ever to have that support system, because the way that the media is set up and just, all those social apps that we're on is set up is that
God.
It's basically feeding you whatever you want to hear.
Totally.
So people are just in a constant confirmation bias loop, where it's like
the ego is just like, you're right.
Yeah, let's reinforce my position. This person did wrong to me. They're bad. I'm good, And
I saw AI also they're seeing AI as doing that. So it's like creating these like even more narcissistic mindsets where people are like, I'm right. Because there's like the AI will be like, wow, George, you're so correct in what you said. You're so amazing, actually. Did anyone tell you that? It's like a little bit nuts.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that whatever you ask AI, like when you're talking to ChatGPT, whatever you ask it, it'll never say, well, actually the way you asked your question kind of sucks, Like for example,
Unless
like
you program it that way.
yeah,
You say, listen, call me on my bullshit. When I'm wrong, tell me. You have to literally program that in.
yeah, but we digress.
You had a point that there was something that came through. You before the AI was confirmation bias.
Yeah, we're basically in a feedback loop where we're always reinforcing our own points of view, and that's why we're getting more polarities in today's society too. There's no more gray areas. It's all black and white. It's like I think this or I think that. It's like, okay, can we actually look at the gray zones? Like you mentioned, let's say a relationship. I mean, the amount of like people that I know, whether it's like guys or girls, that talk about their exes in a bad way. I'm just like, so all your exes were assholes. So all your exes were narcissists.
That's right.
You're right.
Well, that's another thing people say about, a city like Montreal. Like we're definitely a cultural hub of, I would say, the world. Like we're incredible at a lot of things and people come here for that reason. But like for some reason, sometimes you'll meet women and men who will say, oh, all the women here, terrible. Or all the men in Montreal are bad. There's no one good. It's like, the second, so I was, as you mentioned, I was in hospitality for a long time.
Yes.
I was a bartender for about 10 years. Before that, I was, I was working as a bar back at Cavalli, like the Italian spot back in the day. Before that, I was working in catering. I was in that world for so long. I actually seeked that to get to know myself. I wanted to encourage my social capacity, my social bandwidth.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but I'm really interested about this.
Because I lost my train of thought anyways.
Did you grow up being someone that's like outgoing? Or like mostly introverted?
Oh, good question. So like I kind of don't believe so answer extroverted.
Okay.
But I believe that introverted and extroverted are two polarities again that allow people to label themselves as acceptable in both. And I think that there is a lot of, we want to accept people as they are, but also I'd like to say, and also encouraging people to be hyper individualistic and staying alone, I think is part of the issue. So like I have this line, it's the lone wolf is the dying breed, and we need to come together. Like when we think about being a wolf in a tribe, I have this vision that I've brought through in kind of a storytelling sense. Imagine I'm a wolf and I'm bleeding, right? When the adrenaline is coming and I'm bleeding and it's winter and I'm hungry and like I'm intermittent fasting, but it's been like 6 days of fasting.
Yeah.
I might not even notice I'm injured, but put me in a room with you or on a hunt with you. You're like dogs and wolves, when they smell blood, will instantly go to the wound and lick the wound. And that will not only be like a moment of support, but it's also like, hey, bro, you're bleeding. So when I'm alone with my blood bleeding out, I can die. That's the problem. So I think in society, we create more and more space for people to normalize their hyper individualism. And then when they meet a woman, or a man, depending on what they are into, their partner becomes their main support system. And that's where we can fall into these codependent patterns of like trauma bonds, But like truly, if we imagine back to the tribalism moments of like standing around the fire and hunting and gathering and all of that, were these introverted people? It's like they were literally, you survived off of your community. And when one person had an issue, and this is the same thing in the indigenous spaces, it's a reflection of the tribe. And then the tribe holds space, ceremony for song, dance, and ritual for that person to be met and seen. Today, we send them to a psychologist. Psychologist gets kickback for prescribing fucking drugs. Right. And the first day of your therapy, like, have you thought of taking drugs? It's like, they're literally trying to give it to you so quickly.
Yeah.
And if, Gabor Mate is a big on this.
Yes,
he sits with people and he's like, if I just sit with them a little bit longer and ask them the right questions, they're going to show and share pieces of themselves that allow them to feel in the moment what they're moving through, instead of saying, here's a Band-Aid solution. So I'm all about prevention is better than the cure.
Yeah.
And like preventing the issue of continuing to come through is really what I think this work is all about.
And I think like tying it back to when you were talking about introverted, extroverted. So for you, did you feel like, because I can speak about my experience, like I've always like labeled myself from an early age as someone that was introverted because of the fact that it didn't come naturally to me to, in a class to just be like the most talkative guy or whatever. But then eventually like, I realized that, you know, I can do work on myself to become more social. Hence, that's why I also fell in love with hospitality, because that was like kind of like the playground to, well, to throw myself in the fire, you know, because a lot of times like the
Power.
things, yeah, the things like that you fear doing are the exact things you should be doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like oh yeah, like I'm introverted. I don't like talking to people. So go fucking talk to people. You know?
Right. So let me track back. So in elementary school, you know, when my parents split, you know, I had my neighbor who was like my best friend, this Korean, and his sister, these two Korean children from a family next door. I actually just went to Korea a couple weeks ago for his wedding, which
Awesome.
was amazing. I hadn't seen him in like essentially almost 20 years. But, you know, when he left and, you know, post my parents splitting, I felt I actually kind of like, I tried to hang out with the other kids in the school, and like they were, you know, the Portuguese, Greeks, Italians, very like rough around the edges, were kind of pushing me around, kind of bullied me quite a bit. I was also the youngest in my grade. So I was seeking connection. I was seeking to be accepted, and I was bullied. I was beat, shot with BB guns. Like it was a tough, like little journey and I was essentially like, okay, what do I need to do to be accepted? Okay, blow up TVs and light couches on fire and do parkour off buildings and be graffiti artists. Okay. So it's like seeking the rite of passage of like danger almost became the way of becoming accepted. I think that's a very common link also with men.
Yeah.
Which is why like drinking beer becomes a big thing in like high school and CEGEP. It's like, okay, chug this beer. If you can do that, then you're one of the cool kids.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? But coming back to hospitality, what you're saying, and that introverted, extroverted, I do very much believe that my time behind the bar 100% helped me become more of who I am, even though it was perhaps a, in quotation, toxic environment. There's drinking, partying, whatsoever. It's like I feel like the barbers and the bartenders were like the initial therapists of our world, because they would hear all the issues from people who are coming. It's like, I just, you know, my wife and I just got divorced like today, and I haven't seen my kids in like a week, and I'm a little going through it. Like, can I get a scotch? It's like, boom, like the realest conversation of that man's life is about to happen. So like, if I can hold space for that, it's like, it becomes this capacity to like lean in and make that person feel seen and heard in a moment of support, and also helping me understand who I am. So it's like, so it's the community aspect. And I also think there's a big common link between hospitality as like, it's almost like a little mob. It's like really hard to get out, you know, but when you're in, everywhere you go, you're supported, and like shots, vibe, da, da, da. You're like, you know what I'm saying? And like that, I think that's another reason why I leaned into that. It was another representation of like
a community
of my younger years, of like the more chaotic lines of stuff that I was into. It's like, I was just looking to be accepted again. And once I felt accepted, it's like, this became my family, you know? And the families danced together. And unfortunately, you know, there were moments I maybe drank way too much. But it's like, I was still getting to know myself, and I was still seeking community. It was always community.
But, you know, we were talking about this before the podcast, but I feel like it's so important to go through, you know, to have that darkness inside of us, to go, like, I'm someone that like finds balance in extremes, like, in a sense that, you know, I can go like 2 weeks without drinking, but also I know myself, and I've done it in the past where like I could drink way too much, but then I can also wake up the next day and do a crazy workout and push myself through that. How have you developed your discipline over time to not fall into those traps, and also like keep a constant routine that helps you stay healthy, clear-minded, you know, free from tension, and operate at your best level? Because I know for myself, like, as much as I can have a routine, a lot of times I can fall off of it a little bit. Like, whether it's like, oh, I drank too much tonight, or yesterday I didn't go to sleep at the right time, or I didn't do my meditation. Like, how do you get back on that wagon?
I would say forgiveness, for sure, which a lot, it's, you know, man, there's so many ways I can answer that question. To track back a little bit, and if I lose my train of thought, catch me. Okay? So being raised Irish, I believe that there's a big piece around losing touch with our land, which brings through a level of like shame and guilt. I think in the way I was raised, there was a little bit of shame and guilt. And so being hard on myself growing up and lacking self-compassion was definitely something I had to unlearn. And then finding forgiveness. So it's like when we think about our routines in the morning and the piece that needs to be perfect every morning, or else dot dot dot.
Yeah.
It's like, how adaptable can we become? We're not the survival of the fittest. We're the survival of the most adaptable. And that's a whole nother conversation we can have around wolves, and we'll get into that another time. But adapting looks like forgiving myself and having that self-compassion where if I do drink too much, or I don't get the right sleep, or don't train today, it's like, can I bounce back? The recovery piece, like, and it's like, this is part of emotional intelligence. If I lose myself, I need to also then check myself. If I raise my voice to my partner and then I'm like, okay, 1 second, I'm sorry, that was uncalled for, right? It's like the capacity to recover and come back and then acknowledge, and again, accountability and apologize. It's like, the full spectrum of acknowledgement is like so important.
I think meditation helps a lot with that.
Yeah, for sure. Like stillness, like the stillness of the mind, silencing the calmness instead of the fast thought. You spoke about reactivity earlier. So it's all about like the capacity to respond to something rather than react to it.
Yeah.
However, the bigger, broader answer that I would like to bring through here is the concept of the light and the dark. So I think the strongest men on earth are having the capacity to stand in the dark so that we can shine in the light. Like understanding my capacity to embody my darkness and understand where I come from, not shame or guilt myself as my programming tells me to do. And then show love for that piece of myself so that I can hold space for other people's darkness. So that way, in the darkest room around the most dangerous people, I can be part of that light that actually illuminates the darkness, as opposed to I can being a light in the room of spiritual beings doing yoga. It's not hard.
Exactly.
Go to a club at 3 a.m. and hold yourself accountable to not overdo drinking, and then have those conversations with people who are like, yo, like, I see what you're doing. What's going on? And like, actually, like, I have conversations like that all the time. And I actually have this metaphor around the light and the dark, or like, let's call it like the positive and the negative. If this is the midline, I think as men, there's this rite of passage that we seek suffering, we seek challenge, and that challenge and suffering might be subconscious. It's almost like a rite of passage. Back in the day, they would send the boys into the jungle with a spear and say, come back when you figure out who you are, a warrior, farmer, whatever it is. So a lot of men will kind of get lost along that journey of like, kind of like suffering. Things will fall and lower and lower and lower and lower. And I have this theory where if men can sink as low as they possibly can without going to jail or dying, the same duality above the midline is accessible. Because not a single person on earth that I've ever met who's doing great things comes from a perfect upbringing.
Well, it's kind of like an elastic, right?
Elastic. Like, and it's not even back. Like, and the oscillation is important as well. Being able to having the capacity to drop low without lowering my frequency. Like my vibe can lower, my vibration can lower in moments if I go through a breakup, but like my frequency can still stay high so that I can return and then also rise from there. And ideally my oscillation is going up as I age, right? But being from a volatile home, seeking volatility in my life has also been something I had to unlearn, even in relationships. In relationships that were toxic, and the ups and the downs felt normal for me because I was used to that growing up in the worlds that I was in. So it's like bringing that concept back to like my life. If I can, the people who I'm seeing making the most difference on earth are people who, if you really listen to their story, have seen the bottom and they didn't kill themselves, get shot, or go to jail. Or if they went to jail, they came back and they decided to make a difference. And then they're the same people who they understand, okay, well, now I know what I really am looking for. And they speak about this when we talk about choosing partnership. It's like, find someone who understands grief and loss, because those are the people who are really going to appreciate the love that you offer them, instead of people who are just raised with a silver spoon and have absolutely no understanding what that is. So when you're actually loving them unconditionally, they're just like, yeah, cool. No problem.
Well, yeah, it's you're coming from a place where and in the Bible they also talk about that, like the cup runneth over, like you're good with yourself, and if you can approach the world or any type of relationship in that way, that's usually when you can do your best work, because it doesn't come from a place of need. It actually comes from a place where you want to share, you want to give to the world. If you think about like the most powerful energy inside our whole solar system, what is it that doesn't need anything? It's the sun. The sun is all giving, right? It doesn't ask anything from us, but yet without it, we're all dead,
Right. So the cup runneth over. Is that kind of like the concept of the overflowing cup?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
I love that.
Yeah, you're coming from a place of abundance,
Right.
instead of like scarcity
Lack.
and like, I need this, like give me this.
Right.
Coming from a place of me, egotistical, very limited, versus like, hey, it's all us. We're good, like we have everything we need.
And that's such a good point. I mean, so the concept of abundance, like for the longest, initially I was like, abundance, like who are these people speaking abundance all the
The
time?
secret.
Like, but we live in a world where we literally go to the grocery store. We don't have to be a millionaire to buy a container of, let's say, cashews. Where like back in the day, like kings would eat like 5 to 6 cashews, and that would be like insane. Now I can buy a thing of cashews. This was actually an experience that I had like last year, and this is where it like really landed. I like buried my hand into a thing of cashews. And I was like, wow, like leaving the grocery store. I was like, this is so simple, but this is something that literally would be impossible like a few hundred years ago. So the concept of abundance is more of a frequency rather than having everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that overflowing cup piece, another great example that I think I also didn't understand for a long time, because I believe I used to operate from like a half-ish full cup, because I was always focused on giving. That like savior hero archetype I mentioned earlier, where people were coming to me asking for help, and I didn't fully have that unconditional love for myself yet. So I was serving from a half full cup.
Yeah.
I had the realization where it's like, okay, I'm still making impact. I'm making a difference, but clearly if I can raise this cup, then my capacity will extend much further. So the concept of the overflowing cup, I was like, okay, what's that? It's like, okay, so if I'm able to unconditionally love myself and serve and receive as well, because any true giver is equally, if not better, at receiving.
Exactly.
Facts. Definitely have gone through that realization. But that overflowing cup, what I also realized is kind of like the heart. When we love, it's like loving, my heart stays this big. And then when I fall in love or I choose love, my capacity increases. If I lose that partner, my capacity stays the same, but now I have to fill the gap myself by adding the love into that space. My next relationship, then I get to expand again. So it's like the cup is also growing as we're aging.
You're right.
So it's like overflowing, and when I'm 20, but then I'm 25 and I go, it's like, oh, now I have more space to increase the flow again, to serve more from a bigger cup. So it's almost like you got to go to the pottery store and get a bigger cup sometimes. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting that that concept of like receiving, because it's something that I also struggled with. Like my background is like, I've always been in that hustler mentality of like, I need to get shit done. I need to do this. I need to, become the best son I can be, the best boyfriend I can be, the best provider in this area, build a great business to do this and XYZ. And then at some point I just realized, holy shit, like I've never really learned like receiving.
Right.
And once you learn how to receive, that's actually when you also allow other people to invest in you. Hence, it actually makes that relationship way more meaningful. I can give you an example. Let's say you're my friend and, we go out together, like I buy you a drink. And the next time you want to buy me something, but I'm like, no, just let me buy it again for you. By the 10th time that I'm doing this, you for sure started taking me for granted, because you're like, bro, this is happening every time. Like, I don't need to pay. Like why should I value you if I didn't invest anything in you?
Right.
So it's a very interesting balance to have. Not necessarily as if like you have some board that you're just drawing like, okay, one here, one here, one here. Not to that point, but it's something that you realize with time. It's a feeling of like, hey, I need to give space for this person to invest in me.
Right.
If not, they're not going to value me, and in that way, it actually takes away from the experience that they will have.
Totally. Like, when I came into the studio, you offered me a glass of water, and I wasn't sure if it was a bottle of water, but like I was like, okay, am I thirsty? I'm sure I'm gonna get thirsty talking as much as I will. So it's like I was like, I tried and say it's like, yeah, sure, thank you, I appreciate that. But that again, just those simple moments, I used to be like, oh no, it's like food is one of those things. Are you hungry? Literally always hungry. People are like, oh, let me feed you. Like, let me give you some food. I was always like, no. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I didn't want to be a burden. It's like constantly I'm thinking, I used to think I was a burden. But as I learned about even like, honestly, like accepting someone's offer also can add a lot of value to someone else's experience who's so excited to offer their dish they made.
Yeah, exactly. I was curious because you mentioned like earlier affirmations. Are there some affirmations that you do daily that you can share with us?
One that I love, it's simple. So like in my journey, feeling worthy, feeling like enough. I think it's something that I've heard a lot of men share, that they often don't feel enough and they're constantly trying to do more to be accepted. So the I am worth mantra affirmation is such a powerful one.
It's interesting. I have that one too.
Really?
Yeah. Well, mine is I started out with like I am enough, but then I actually found that like the double negative is actually more powerful for me. So instead of saying I am enough, I say there's no reason why I'm not enough.
Cool.
Yeah. But it's interesting that like you mentioned that.
Yeah. No, that's a big one, man. Like the worthiness piece, constantly caring for others, I think was something that made it difficult for me to care for myself. So yeah, like that unconditional love, unconditional love is honestly, to be perfectly honest, I only really learned last year. I'm 32 years old. It took me 31 years to really understand what that was through a specific experience. So I would say I am worth is a big one. I am enough, things simple, keeping it simple. I am love. Like truly, we are all love. Like we get a choice every day to show up as we are. And that can be taken for granted, Just being above ground is something that I love to also be grateful for. These gratitude practices. I say something every day above ground is a good day. Right. I have a friend who passed away from a heart attack about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and his, he lived a great life, and he'll be greatly missed. And I like to also share about his loss, that I lost a deep brother, but I gained a guardian. So it's like I'm acknowledging that his presence is still there, but being above ground is something that I get to appreciate. And it's so simple, but we can get, I think, and I'm saying the collective we, I don't always like to do that, but I think we can really, especially with social media, can get caught up in the comparison of others and what other people have, and then think about what we don't have, and like think about how we're not good enough. And like what I've seen over and over again is the more I get into these deep conversations with men and women, the thing that they think is making them the smallest is actually where they're so powerful, Like the biggest trauma or the biggest barrier or issue is really where they gain the most strength. And I've seen it so many times where then once they lean into that space, they're making the biggest impact, because like our pain becomes our experience, truly.
Yeah. And also like comes back to what we were saying before, like the thing that you fear doing is probably the thing you should be doing. Because if you're not addressing that, you're basically just playing the blind person that's like ignoring that problem forever, but you're letting it fester, it rots, and then it becomes like trauma or hardships that you're passing down to other people or like your children in the future,
Totally.
Like that's something I think a lot about for myself, is like, if ever like the day I have children, is to not repeat the same cycle.
Big time.
Bringing back like those early childhood feelings of not being enough or anything. Like I want to be like the best version of myself to make sure that the children grow with good roots. It's all those webs that you have to untangle, and that starts by being with yourself, you know. And I feel like in today's day and age, like its biggest problem comes from the fact that people can't be by themselves, just constantly distracted. It's like, where's the next distraction? Sitting by yourself, let me check my phone. Let me check what's happening on social media. They go to a restaurant, like they can't even enjoy the vibe. They're like, what's that person thinking about me? Like,
My goodness. Like when you go to a festival, sometimes you'll see it where I have a friend like, we'll go to the front of the space. He's like, oh, like, let's go get a drink at the back. It's like, okay, let's go to the back. It's like, okay, let's go back to the front. I'm like, yo, like we just came from there. Like, okay, I'm clearly not following you. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is when I think leadership is also about like leading and following.
Yeah.
So learning when to follow is important. But when I'm following people who don't know where they're going and I get caught in following them, I lose it. Like, for real. But, oh, you said something. Oh yeah, that was it. It was around avoidance. Another affirmation that I always try to remind myself is around commitment. So like, if you're familiar with attachment style, for me growing up, I think I was a much more of an avoidant attacher, and healing that has also been a big part of my journey. And a big piece around that is reminding myself to commit to commitment. It's like the fear of committing is something that I think caught me in the avoidance for so long. So it's like committing to commitment is also an affirmation that I think about and I reflect on, where it's like all of the best things that could happen in my future that I desire are in the things I'm avoiding. And I think our society reinforces reasons to avoid, to scroll, to distract, to numb. There's all these numbing agents in our world. You know, drugs, alcohol, porn, gambling, addiction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, overworking.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because we're in a consumer culture, and the way that capitalism works to make society go round and round is to make sure you never feel enough and you always have to buy new shit.
Right. It's
like,
crazy.
Like I'm in marketing, and they're talking about the light and dark. I think there's a lot of good to marketing, but holy shit, it's dark too.
Right.
Because you know, you're playing with people's I guess like desires and needs, and
also fears and not enoughness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and once you realize that, you're just like, holy shit, like what the fuck is wrong with people? Like you don't need to buy your new phone to feel like you're enough, you know, or you don't need to constantly distract yourself. And I feel like tying it back to what you're doing with all the physical aspect of, you know, whether it's like cold plunges. I know you organize some of those, how do you call them? Like ice dips or something?
Ice dips, cold plunge, yeah.
Yeah. For me, like cold exposure therapy has been tremendous to on a personal level for my health, also for mental clarity, but it really does affect your dopamine. And in a world where people are just constantly seeking that next dopamine hit on a social media reel or whatever, it's like, just get into fucking ice water, man. Like you'll feel good for 6 hours after.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I started that community just by realizing I needed to feel something through the lockdowns here, which were literally second most severe lockdowns in the world, second to China. Like we had it really bad in Quebec, and feeling became something I really felt disconnected from. And I felt like I was in my survivor big time. And again, when you take the warriors and you separate them all, they feel powerless. That's why, you know, divide and conquer, the concept.
Yeah, Sun Tzu. Yeah.
Right. But stepping into the cold water, it's like the future and the past evaporate. It's like survive in the now. It's like, oh wait, but this kind of feels kind of nice after that 30-second moment.
Yeah.
You know, the dopamine comes through and all that. But yeah, it's like, it's such a beautiful practice of coming back into the body and like not disassociating, but like reassociating. Ironically, because it's cold water, you can think it's like numbing, it's shutting down the system, but it does the complete opposite. It actually reconnects me deeply to my body. And yeah, it's a powerful practice. I love that you do that too.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that whatever hard moment that I put myself through or that I have to go through, whether it's like by choice or just by life happening to me, one thing that I always have to remind myself is that this too shall pass. You know, it'll pass.
Good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like it'll pass. Like right now I feel cold. 5 minutes later I'll feel hot, you know? So can't you just like relax into the now and feel it like wholly?
Totally.
People are living their whole lives like running from places to places because they're like to your example earlier, it's like, let's go to the back of the room to get a drink. Let's go back here. Let's go back there. It's like, okay, can you just be where you are right now and just enjoy it?
Totally. And that's actually another thing I've thought about, when you go somewhere, you want to bring something, perhaps a bottle of wine, an offering of some sort to, if it's like a dinner. And that's a really beautiful practice. I think gift giving is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as practicing offering something, remembering that I'm enough as I am by just like showing up,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm offering a lot with my presence, just the frequency, even the concept of having a regulated nervous system. I heard a therapist talk about how it's like, oh, the certification, the schooling, but people pay them for their regulated nervous system because it allows them to then regulate their nervous system in response to that calmness.
Oh,
It's a really powerful realization. I was like, wow, that really, really makes sense, which is why, you can kind of feel the difference between someone who's caught in their anxious body and mind. And again, that like going to the front and the back and the front and the back, it's like being in the now, offering nothing except presence is the true gift. I led a workshop, and another thing that I created with a woman from Montreal named Sabrina, who we started this thing called Heart Runs Deep, which is a co-ed container of welcoming men and women into their body to connect with all these pieces that we're talking about, so that we can show up better in relationships, both intimate and friendship. So it's not only like all about dating. It really isn't. It's really about just connection. And one of the workshops that we led was called The Gift around Christmas time. And we were walking people through the concept of, yes, gift giving is great, but the gift of presence, when you think about like, what does my future daughter really want? Does she want a golden watch? No, she wants her father to be with her by her side and chill,
really
and
be
play
there,
games and relax and just go for a walk. Simple things. The simplicity in our life has been caught up in all of the filler and the surface and the superficiality and all of it, but the true, like the essence that we're born with, our heart and our capacity to lead from that space, is really the biggest offering that we can do. So sometimes I tell people who don't feel welcome to just practice showing up places and realize how much people appreciate their presence just by being there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wow, I realized, wow, that actually was quite impactful. I always bring like this, I pay for dinner, I pay for drinks, I do this. And I'm constantly trying to entertain. It's like, what if they just think about listening, Like the masculine, I think, is like the mouth outward, like, but the listening piece is the feminine, the receiving.
Yeah.
And that's so important to and then when we actually listen and we tune in, it's like, I'm having fun hanging out with you on this podcast. Dude. Like you're chill, like you're fucking chill. So it's like, that's also part of the receiving, is like leaving space for those compliments to come through naturally.
Yeah. For me, it's been a huge help, and also like a huge improvement in the way that I feel in social situations, realizing that you have value just because you're you, right?
You have value just because yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of times people think like, I have to do something in order to show that I'm a cool person, I have value in this way, in that way, because I have a cool watch, I have a cool car, because I'm funny, because I'm witty. But when you make that shift from doing to being, like, boom, you don't need to do something to be valuable. Just be valuable. Like it's not some future thing you're gonna get to. And if you play it, like what's fucked up is like when you play that game of like, I'll be happy when, I'll be confident when, you never really arrive, because you realize there's always someone else that you're going to compare yourself to. You're going to be always like, chasing. Fuck, like I made $1 million, but this guy made 10, and I have this awesome car, but this guy has a better car, and it never ends. Dude,
we've been dropping some crazy codes on this podcast. Like that one right there is such a huge thing, man. Like the line is that people say often, it's like, we're human beings, not human doings. So even as men, we need to really remember, because we're really here as we hold the physical realm safe. Like I believe men are the leaders of the physical realm, but women are the leaders of the spiritual realm. They bring life through their body, like truly. So the connection to God in relationship or if you don't believe in God, just spirit or nature or karma, whatever you believe in, it's like, it's through the feminine. Like no matter what sex or what gender or what preference, it's like through the feeling. It doesn't necessarily have to be through the woman, but through the feeling, period, is such a big piece, right? And yeah, it's like the being piece is, I think truly for men is a challenge, because this is something we speak about in men's work often, which is, you know, answering a phone call of someone who's going through something is easy. Men love fixing. It's actually a big thing in relationships. To not fix is actually a challenge for men. Like, it's like, hey, honey, I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling this way. It's like, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? What about this idea?
Let's fix
the problem. I see all of the answers. Even though those answers might completely solve the issue, just holding space and not fixing is making it about them and actually letting the person feel welcome, received, seen, valued, understood, all in one moment by just holding. Often people who meet someone, if it's in a relationship and beyond, like sometimes just like giving them a hug can offer so much value in, again, the being with that instead of the fixing. So the doing piece.
There's a movie that like I haven't watched in a while, but like it really hammered that point home. I think it's called The Fountain. And inside the movie, like there's a very smart like scientist that he has a dying wife that like I think I forgot like the disease that she had, but like she only had like a fixed number of days left to live. And so the whole movie is about him trying to find like a cure and all that stuff. And at the end of the movie, like it really hit me. Like she basically said like, you're trying so hard to find all these fixes and everything, but I just wanted you to like stay with me to enjoy like the time that we have. Like it was so powerful. And you're just like, fuck man, men just constantly want to fix something when you could have just stayed there and enjoy like the last couple of days with that person, you know?
100%. And again, with that piece of, you know, fixing, if I call you and you answer, you're like, bro, I got you. What do you need? I got your back. Yeah. You need me to listen, not to fix the problem. Cool. I'll listen. We got you. I got this much time. Boom. Offers so much value. The really hard part, and this is to all the men listening out there, is picking up the phone is the hard part. Saying, hey, I'm having some issue. Are you willing to like give me 8 minutes? There's that line. Do you have 8 minutes? And like sometimes it just takes 8 minutes. Sometimes it takes longer, right? But like asking for help is a big important thing that I truly encourage all men to lean into, realizing that it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're not enough. It doesn't mean you're small. In fact, no one gets anywhere alone, truly.
Exactly.
So by saying, hey, I'm starting a business. I'm not too sure about this piece. Do you have time to maybe walk me through this piece? And then in an emotional sense, it's like, hey, I'm really not feeling connected to my spirit, my body, my emotional well-being. I feel a little bit destabilized. Whatever it is. Do you have any tip? Like how do you find that?
Yeah.
That's so valuable. That's like one of the biggest things that the concept of like men's work does. Because I have this vision that I've actually experienced where it's like, you have this guy, he has like 3 kids, you know, and he leads a business with like, you know, 600 employees. And you have another guy with 2 kids who leads a business of 100 employees, but he's suffering and he doesn't know what to do. He's like, how is that guy chill? So then the aftermath of being able to be like, hey, I heard you share, I have like a fraction of what you hold and you seem connected. Are you open to give me some feedback on how I can find that stability?
Yeah. And
those moments.
Yeah. And it can also be like the guy that has a family of 3-4 kids that's not good in business, but has an amazing family life. And the other guy that's a super successful CEO entrepreneur that runs a billion-dollar company, but his family life is shit.
He doesn't even have kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And he feels disassociated, like disconnected, 100%.
So for you, like, what's top of mind? What are next events you're planning, and what can people look forward to?
Yeah. So the whole framework of men's work. I mean, I'm going to be in BC for something called the Canada Convergence for Sacred Sons in July. So that's for men. That's going to be a Canada-wide experience happening on Gambier Island in BC. There's also going to be a remembrance for men and women. It's called the remembrance, but it's for men and women, and the co-founders and the people who are there leading bring their wives and their kids, and the kids usually stay off in an area alone. But the concept is something I'm really looking forward to. It'll be the first one that I attend. The first one was last year for men and women. So that why I'm bringing through that is the thing that's top of mind for me is really bringing community together where men and women can witness each other to moving through what they're moving through. You know, having women see men step into what's called, you know, the light, the work, whatever you want to call it, and lean into growth is something that I feel like the collective woman, feminine has been, just the collective feminine period has been really asking of us. And if you reflect that even into like Mother Earth needs us to hold her in a new way where we're actually not just extracting value, but we're coming back to adding value. Right. So it's like in indigenous tribes, it's like if we take from a branch, it's like, what are we offering back to nature? It's like a prayer. There are things you can offer, but I think we've lost those rituals and those indigenous ways of holding reverence for these beings of nature and beyond, where we need to remember to really give back. So coming back to relationships, coming back to the co-ed containers, that's really where my focus is right now. Really remembering to add value as opposed to extracting value, and really encouraging men to understand what that looks like and feels like. Normalize that, because women really, really do want. What I'm seeing, they really appreciate when men have that kind of like illumination. And I truly think it's what is our calling. You know, coming back to what I said at the beginning, family is the truest unit on earth. And, you know, capitalism is slowly pulling us all apart in many ways, including the family. And that's why the birth rate is low in so many ways. Reestablishing connection to have people choose each other in a new way where they're able to choose from a heart-led space, and as opposed to from fear or what society says it's time for, or their family, etc. To actually show up in a way where they're emotionally stable, where they can feed the family healthily and raise children that have strong roles of what a father or a mother looks like. And yeah, like that's like the way forward, I think, for the future, bro. Like,
you know, I want to take a little moment to acknowledge you, because I think you're doing important work by
my emotions are, it's not tears, it's really like there's a lot, there's like a frequency, I'm like shaking almost.
Yeah, but I remember we saw each other at maybe like a couple of weeks ago at an event, and you gave me like some props for doing what I do and having these talks and podcasts. You were saying like, it's really cool you're doing that, but you know, I've been checking you out like from afar, what you were doing on social media and everything. And I think like it's good that you're stepping into that light to bring more awareness to these things. You know, if that's your calling, that's your calling. And a lot of times, like we come back to this like all the time, but the thing that you're resisting the most is probably the thing you should do. Hey. So don't, you know, because a lot of times I think we have imposter syndrome. We're like, why should it come from me? I'm just George, like the white man that's like the tall, handsome white man. Why should the message come from me? But if everybody thinks like that, that message will never get passed on. So it has to start from somewhere. And I think that's
we
also
die with those messages.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, the biggest. What's that quote again? I think like the biggest treasure troves of dreams is like a cemetery or something.
Say it again.
The biggest like treasure trove of dreams is a cemetery. Basically, it's all these unfulfilled dreams. Yeah.
Wow, that's deep. So going to the cemetery, it's like, okay, what can I tap into here that was not lived? Maybe I can get the message. You know, that's actually an interesting practice. Wow.
Yeah.
Never thought of that. I need to get me to write that one down later.
Yeah.
But there's a quote that I wanted to drop earlier that I'll say now. You know Aretha Franklin?
Yeah.
She has this line that I heard that moved me so much, and coming back to that piece of unconditional self-love and the concept of serving from the overflow and, you know, leading in love. All of this, I think, truly is like the root of why we do the work, in quotation, to choose love and lead in love, really, because it is a choice every single day. So her line is, never trust a naked man offering you a shirt. And it goes to people who love from I love you now your love is mine. Now the love that we feel is mine. I need to hold on to this. So like, it's not possession. It's not control. It's not manipulation. It's like, there's so much self-love and acceptance of unconditional self-love that I'm offering this as an offering.
Mm-hmm.
And if that partner is able to do the same thing, like that co-creation is where magic happens.
Right.
As opposed to feeling something empty and then latching on to a sense of love outside of myself and holding on to it and saying, okay, I'm never letting this go. That's like it. That's where the codependent ties come from. That's where the trauma bonds come from. And it's like loving outside the self.
Mm-hmm.
I love that line. Never trust a naked man offering you a shirt, because how is he supposed to offer anything? That love needs to come from abundance.
Yeah. And also it has to, we're talking about this before the podcast, but like, if you want to renounce something, I feel like you should at least go through the struggle of getting it in the first place. Because a lot of times, like, you remember we were saying, like, sometimes like people have like cop out answers or cop out perspectives of being like, I don't need money. Like, I'm not that type of person, but I also don't know how to make money. You know?
Right. It's like abundance. That sounds like bullshit. It's like living in scarcity is just the way.
Yeah.
And my dad actually is someone who, like, it's kind of like a religious thing. People who really believe in God deeply, like in the Bible, a lot of like shame and guilt is kind of programming into the scripture. Like my dad's someone who actually believes that like shame is like part of life, that we need to like, it's like, it's good to feel shame. Shame is good. It's like, no, not really. Like, I don't believe that. I think, anyways, I'm kind of losing myself there. But the point is to say that adding love is where we come through, and we bring the medicine through, and how we can really show up for our community. And
also change the narrative. One event, one talk at a time.
One talk at a time.
Thanks.
Dude, this is a big one, dude. If anyone made it this far, wow, that was a transmission. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time.